Well, hello, friends. Mark DeMatteo here with video number 2 in this series of my Great Questions Quest. And this particular video is entitled The Creator. And I'm on this video, I'm going to share with you a foundational piece of evidence which actually confirms that there is a creator, okay? Very simple, in some ways well known, but something that perhaps a lot of us, even though we may be aware of it, have not really thought about it a whole lot. But it's something that revolutionized the way I looked at this whole reality and how it got here, okay? And actually, folks, when I started this journey, before I worried about a lot of things as far as how they got here, I wanted to know how the basic framework, the basic building blocks of this universe got here. And folks, we live in a space, mass, time, reality, those three parts. But before I worried about anything else, I wanted to worry about the matter, the stuff, okay? All this physical stuff that's around us. And the bottom line is, as most of us know, they're made up of these amazing little entities called atoms. Quite frankly, the first time I ever heard about them, actually, folks, I was in the 5th grade, believe it or not, London Town Elementary School here in Northern Virginia, in an earth sciences class, and my teacher began to explain to me a little bit about these basic building blocks that make up all the matter so far as we know in the entire universe. And what blew me away was two things. Number one, how small these things were supposedly, they were, okay, how small they were. And number two, the amount of power apparently locked up in these things, because the teacher told me, and just to kind of give you one quick little idea on that, I heard a statistic one time, or a fact, which I've sort of verified, but because every time I share it, I'm always like, gosh, is that really right? But I've heard that if you took a sugar cube, and this isn't a sugar cube, it's actually a bouillon cube, but it's about the same size. But if you took a sugar cube and you could count all the atoms in it, that they would potentially be more in number than all the grains of sand on this planet, which is absolutely astounding. You know, I really sometimes wonder if that's really true, but the fact of the matter is there are a lot, all right? So they're very, very tiny, but the teacher said one day perhaps we'll be able to harness the power of the atom. And I'm like, what? You mean these smallest things that we know of have more power in them than anything else we know of? I'm like, what's going on with that? So in the back of my mind was always curious about these. And so what I want to do, just to start off with, I've got a few props here in this video this evening that I'm doing. And first of all, I want to show you a picture of an atom that I printed out. And I apologize because of the way I've got the camera, everything's backwards, but I'm sure everyone's very familiar with this, all right? They're amazing little structures, all right? And basically 3 primary parts that make up all atoms as far as we know. You just change the numbers of them and we end up with every element that we know of in the universe, all right? But they have a center part, as you can see, which is called the nucleus. And there are 2 basic parts in there, the protons and the neutrons. We're not going to get really complicated here. I just want to refresh everyone's memory about these little guys, okay? And then we have these little things called electrons spinning around the outside. Now, here's what's amazing. We now believe that the protons and neutrons are actually made up of even smaller things, which is absolutely incredible, that are moving themselves. The nucleus, the power that binds that nucleus together is almost inconceivable for the size of it. And then we have these little electrons which are spinning around that nucleus so rapidly, most scientists believe approaching, if not actually at the speed of light, folks, which is huge, okay? And these electrons spin so fast that they actually swarm, all right? It's not a straight orbit. They're almost everywhere at once, let's put it that way. And so what they actually do, even though an atom is primarily space, and I'm going to emphasize that in a second, those electrons spin so rapidly that it actually gives the atom structure, okay, and substance. And that is why everything is solid, okay, you know, as far as normal matter is concerned. Now let me share something with you that I found very, very interesting. I always assumed, and I've got a little basketball here, that if we could blow up an atom to the size of a basketball, that the nucleus, where those protons and neutrons were, would probably be about the size of a ping pong ball in the center of the atom, and that the little electrons spinning around might maybe be the size of, this is a marble, okay? But that's not the case. The picture that I showed you is not anywhere near drawn to scale. Folks, to get an idea of what an atom is really composed of, which is essentially empty space, we would have to take, if we could again blow the nucleus of an atom up to the size of this ping pong ball, to get an accurate idea of how large the atom would be in relation to this, okay, ping pong ball, we would have to go to a professional football stadium, stand on the center of the 50-yard line. And folks, the closest electron orbiting around this nucleus wouldn't be the size of a marble. It would be the size of a grain of sand. Okay, got a little bottle of sand here. Oh, we all know sand, okay? Get this. The closest electron would be orbiting at the perimeter of that football stadium. Get that? And I'm like, what? Are you serious? What is really going on here? And the fact that those little electrons are, again, spinning so fast that it actually creates this shell. And so I've heard it said that an atom is basically 1,000,000 times more empty space than it is stuff. And so it's like, well, what is going on with this? And that is why, even though, because, everything is made up of these atoms. My hand is made up of atoms. This basketball is made up of atoms. But really, in essence, they're empty space. But because of those shells, the way they operate, I can't put my hand through this basketball, okay? And just let me say this to you too. If we were to blow up an atom to the size of a basketball and set it, if I were to set it on this desk here or put one in front of you, we would be blown away by the energy that's being released, the power that's being released. The motion. In other words, we'd be like, how did these entities get here? And here's the thing that confused me. And this is what I want to wrap up with. All right. I did a lot of studying on this and learning on the ideas that different scientists had on how these possibly could have gotten here. And there were two primary groups of people, both highly educated, highly credentialed, looking at the exact same atom. And one group said they happened through, the main idea now is through the Big Bang, okay? An explosion produced these atoms. The other group said, no way, all right? That can't happen. That these are designed, there's structure, there's power, there's specific parts. So I'm like, what's going on? Okay, how are they coming up with two completely different ideas? Well, so what I decided to do, it's because I was very intrigued with science myself. I went ahead and I said, all right, I'm going to look at the evidence these guys have that supports their ideas. And so what I did was I took actually a set of 5 very simple scientific laws that both groups of people agreed with, they understood. But what I said was, I've got a brain. Intuitively, I know the way the things in this world work, as do each of you. We live in this world. We know the way it operates. And so what I did was I took those laws, and I've done audios on those laws. In deference to time, I'm just going to call them out to you, okay? The law of conservation of matter and energy, the law of decay, all right? The law of cause and effect, the law of information, and the 5 conditions that are required, or number 5 really, is the 4 conditions that are required in order to produce order in any type of system. Now, don't worry about if that's kind of confusing right now if it's the first time you've heard it. Again, I've done audios, they're on the site, and I go through each one specifically. All right, but what I did was, and I've also done audios much more in detail on these atoms, because I'm just scratching the tip of the iceberg here, because I want to keep these relatively brief. I just want to touch on some of the amazing things that summary of what I've learned on this journey. Just as an FYI for those of you that are interested, okay? But when I took those laws and I listened to the evidence on both sides, I'm just going to say this. The evidence was overwhelming The rational explanation was that these atoms are manufactured articles. They had to be created. There has to be a vast mind, because these are not just random things. They're not arbitrary things. They're very specifics. And again, I'm just going to leave it at that right now. But what I just want to say is there's a mind behind this. There's a mind behind every atom in this cosmos. All right. And what's interesting about that, when we take a look at the amount of power and structure and order that are continually operating in each and every one of these, it's not like they were just kind of built and now they're just there. They are constantly moving. All of this energy is there. That's the only reason why they continue to exist. So they're actually being maintained. And that's what we're going to really talk about in the next video. We're going to talk about the amount of power actually at work in these atoms. And it's mind-blowing, folks. It's like, wait a minute, where's that coming from? How is it getting there? How is it actually energizing these atoms? What's really going on here? Well, here it is. When we consider how many of these there are in the cosmos and how much power is locked up in them operating, and that their structure and order, the capability of that mind, we might as well, folks, take the highest concept we have of the word God and apply it to that mind that is responsible for the basic construct of everything that's in this universe as far as matter is concerned. So again, this is an amazing little deal that all the matter in the universe is made up of these things. And so that to me was the clear foundational building block from the standpoint of evidence that proved to me, number one, there was a God, that God was responsible for the basic matter, and then it began to lead into other areas because it pretty much indicated that a lot of other things were actually made by this God as well. And we'll get into that later. But for right now, part number one, the foundational evidence, is this amazing little entity called atoms that make up everything that we have in the cosmos. And when we look at it in the true light of science that many scientists agree with, it's a manufactured article, folks. Okay, so until next time, Marcus D signing off, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.